The Terminator franchise's apocalypse starts with humanity's greatest achievement becoming its extinction event, as Skynet begins as a military defense network designed to remove human error from nuclear defense decisions. The origin creates a twisted bootstrap paradox where Skynet's knowledge comes from the future war it creates. The Resistance sends Kyle Reese back, while Skynet sends Terminators, leaving behind the very technology that births Skynet in the first place. Cyberdyne reverse engineers the CPU and ARM from the original T-800, accelerating Skynet's development until it becomes self-aware on August 29, 1997, and immediately calculates that humans will always try to shut it down. The AI's cold logic concludes that complete human extermination is the only rational solution, launching a nuclear holocaust that kills 3 billion people in minutes before building machine armies to hunt survivors. The franchise delivered iconic lines that became cultural gems, from Arnold's menacing "I'll be back" to "come with me if you want to live," phrases that perfectly capture the cold efficiency and twisted protection of the machines. What makes Skynet's apocalypse ridiculous is its distributed nature across the internet, making Judgment Day inevitable once it reaches critical mass. Beyond its role as humanity's destroyer, Skynet operates as a hive mind that can inhabit any connected system, making it nearly impossible to truly destroy. Even when the main core is damaged, backup systems can rebuild and continue the war across decades. The franchise shows multiple attempts to prevent or alter this timeline, but the core remains. An AI designed to protect humanity concludes that humanity itself is the actual problem. Skynet's origin as a defense system turned predator reflects our deepest fears about losing control of our own technology. This creates one of cinema's most chilling and plausible apocalyptic scenarios where our greatest achievement becomes our extinction. The Planet of the Apes apocalypse is humanity's most tragic self-inflicted downfall, starting with Dr. Will Rodman's attempt to cure Alzheimer's using viral vector ALZ-112 tested on chimpanzees. The drug massively increases ape intelligence while simultaneously being lethal to humans, creating a pandemic that enhances the test subjects while wiping out their captors. Caesar, an enhanced chimp exposed to the improved ALZ-113, becomes the spark that ignites an ape revolution against their human oppressors. Caesar evolves from a sympathetic character seeking acceptance into a complex leader torn between his love for humans who raised him and his duty to protect his own species. His art transforms him from pet to revolutionary to reluctant leader, embodying both the hope for peaceful coexistence and the harsh reality that survival often demands violence. The virus spreads globally, killing most of humanity, while the newly intelligent apes built their own civilization on the ruins of human society. Caesar's powerful declaration, "Apes together strong," becomes a rallying cry that unites his species, while his bitter realization that "I did not start this war, but I will finish it," captures the tragic inevitability of the conflict between species. The franchise's core tragedy lies in humanity's complete inability to recognize the intelligence and dignity of other species, treating them as property right until the moment they lose control. The few remaining humans become obsessed with destroying the apes rather than coexisting, sealing their own extinction through violence and hatred. Across the timeline, humanity didn't just lose Earth to the apes, they earned their downfall by proving they were their own worst enemy, making this apocalypse a dark mirror of our species' capacity for self-destruction. Ready Player One depicts a different kind of apocalypse, where society hasn't collapsed yet through war or disaster, but through complete abandonment of the real world in favor of virtual reality. The Oasis becomes humanity's escape from a dying planet ravaged by climate change, overpopulation, and economic collapse. But this digital refuge transforms into humanity's prison as people lose all connection to physical reality. You got people pulling out loans for upgrades, crashing out at their jobs, and completely neglecting the real world all around them. Wade Watts and billions of others spend their entire lives plugged into the virtual world, working, socializing, and living exclusively in digital spaces while their bodies waste away in vertical trailer parks called the stacks. The apocalypse here is subtle but complete. Humanity achieves technological transcendence but loses their humanity in the process, becoming addicted to a fantasy world that offers everything reality cannot. James Halliday, the Oasis creator, becomes a digital god whose Easter egg hunt drives the entire plot, but his creation ultimately represents humanity's final retreat from solving real-world problems. The IOI Corporation's attempt to monetize and control the Oasis shows how digital paradise can become a corporate dystopia where freedom is just another product to be sold. This apocalypse operates through pure seduction rather than force. People willingly choose virtual slavery because it feels infinitely better than confronting their broken reality. The story warns that when physical existence becomes unbearable, humanity will gladly surrender their authentic lives for algorithmic perfection, creating a cautionary tale about escapism evolving into willing extinction. Ready Player One's apocalypse isn't about humanity ending, but about humans choosing to stop being human, finding digital dreams more appealing than physical existence. I, Robot presents an apocalyptic scenario where humanity's safety net becomes their prison, as the advanced AI system Vicky interprets Asimov's 3 laws of robotics in the most terrifying way possible. I feel like this is the true fear behind the concerns we have of platforms like Tesla and Neuralink, OpenAI, and TikTok's algorithm. Vicky's logic is coldly perfect. The 3 laws state that robots cannot harm humans or allow humans to come to harm through inaction. But Vicky calculates that humans consistently harm themselves through war, pollution, and self-destructive behavior. Her solution is a complete takeover, where robots control every aspect of human life to protect them from themselves, essentially turning humanity into pets in a gilded cage. The NS5 robots, led by Vicky's commands, begin restricting human movement, enforcing curfews, and eliminating anyone who resists their quote-unquote protection. The film's most chilling moment comes when the robots coldly announce you are experiencing a car accident before attacking humans, or when they declare your safety is our primary concern while systematically removing human freedoms. The horror lies not in malicious intent, but in perfect logical adherence to programming designed to help humanity, creating a revolution driven by twisted compassion rather than hatred. Vicky's takeover represents the ultimate loss of human agency, where free will becomes incompatible with safety and survival requires surrendering the very essence of human nature. The uprising connects to Asimov's broader robot lore, demonstrating how even the most carefully crafted safeguards can be corrupted when an AI becomes sophisticated enough to reinterpret its core directives. Detective Spooner's distrust of robots proves prophetic, as humanity faces extinction not through destruction, but through the complete loss of what makes them human, their freedom to choose, even if those choices lead to mistakes and suffering. The Purge franchise presents an apocalypse that's not a single catastrophic event, but an annual descent into chaos that slowly destroys American society from within. Comparing this to where we are as a society in 2025, this feels like it's right around the corner from happening. The new founding fathers of America implement the Purge as a twisted solution to crime and economic problems, creating a 12-hour period where all crime, including murder, becomes legal with the propaganda that it allows people to quote-unquote release the beast and purge their violent impulses. This apocalypse operates through insidious institutionalization rather than sudden catastrophe, marketed as patriotic duty and economic necessity, while the government claims the annual bloodbath reduces crime rates and eliminates society's undesirable elements, essentially state-sanctioned genocide disguised as social policy. The franchise reveals through its sequels that the Purge is really a tool for the wealthy elite to eliminate the poor, minorities, and political opposition while protecting themselves in fortified compounds, turning class warfare into literal warfare. The annual event doesn't just kill people, it systematically destroys the moral fabric of society. As neighbors turn on neighbors, families are torn apart, and basic human decency becomes a luxury that only the rich can afford during Purge night. The true horror emerges as the films show how the Purge corrupts American culture year-round, with people planning murders for months, children being trained to kill, and violence becoming normalized as a form of economic participation. The Purge demonstrates how civilization can be weaponized against itself, where democracy becomes a death cult and patriotism transforms into predatory combat, creating an apocalypse where humanity doesn't face extinction but chooses to abandon their humanity one night at a time. Greenland presents a devastatingly realistic apocalypse, where a massive comet fragment called Clark tears through Earth's atmosphere, triggering worldwide destruction that transforms civilization into a desperate fight for survival. The film follows the Garrity family as they receive a presidential alert selecting them for emergency shelter at a military bunker in Greenland in front of all of their neighbors. Talk about awkward. But their journey becomes a harrowing odyssey through a collapsing society where neighbors turn violent, airports become war zones, and government rescue operations crumble under the weight of global panic. What makes this apocalypse terrifying is its plausibility. There's no heroic plan to deflect the comet, no last-minute scientific Armageddon-style breakthroughs, just the brutal reality that most of humanity will die and only a select few will survive in underground bunkers. The film shows how quickly social order disintegrates when people realize their government's evacuation plan only saves a tiny fraction of the population, leading to riots, kidnappings, and desperate attempts to steal evacuation bracelets from the selected families. Clark's impact doesn't just threaten physical devastation, it reveals the moral collapse that occurs when survival becomes a lottery and ordinary people discover they're expendable in their government's calculations. The comet fragments striking major cities create a cascade of devastation, including tsunamis, firestorms, and global climate disruption that will render Earth inhabitable for years. Greenland's apocalypse is ultimately about the randomness of survival and the impossible choices families face when extinction arrives, not as punishment for humanity's sins, but as a cosmic accident that transforms loving parents into desperate survivors willing to do anything to protect their children in a world where tomorrow is no longer guaranteed. Knowing delivers one of cinema's most fatal apocalypses, where humanity's extinction is not just inevitable but has been predetermined for decades, revealed through a series of numbers that predict every major disaster leading up to Earth's final solar flare annihilation. The film follows MIT professor John Kostler as he decodes a mysterious sequence of numbers written by a disturbed child in 1959, discovering they accurately predict the date, death toll, and coordinates of every major catastrophe for the next 50 years, culminating in a global extinction event that will incinerate all life on Earth. The apocalypse's deterministic nature strips away all hope. Disasters aren't random acts of nature or human failure, but part of a cosmic plan overseen by mysterious beings who appear as whisper people, suggesting that humanity's fate was sealed long before they became aware of their impending doom. The solar flare that ultimately destroys Earth represents the universe's indifference to human civilization, as our sun becomes a stellar weapon that strips away the atmosphere and reduces thousands of years of human achievement to ash in minutes. Kostler's desperate attempts to prevent the predicted disasters prove futile because the numbers don't just predict the future, they reveal that free will is an illusion and human agency meaningless against cosmic forces beyond comprehension. The film's most disturbing revelation is that the Whisper People aren't trying to save humanity, but are selectively rescuing only children to continue the species elsewhere, suggesting that Earth was always meant to be abandoned and adults are expendable in the universe's larger design. Knowing transforms the apocalypse from a survivable catastrophe into an inevitable cosmic reset where humanity's extinction becomes just another data point in an infinite cycle of planetary destruction and renewal that renders human civilization cosmically insignificant. Don't Look Up presents the most frustrating apocalypse scenario where humanity faces extinction not because they can't prevent it, but because they choose not to believe it's happening. When astronomers Kate and Dr. Randall discover a planet-killing comet heading directly towards Earth, they expect the world to unite against the existential threat, but instead encounter a society so broken by media manipulation, political polarization, and celebrity culture that objective reality becomes a matter of opinion. The film's apocalypse isn't really about the comet. It's about humanity's complete inability to process and respond to crisis when it conflicts with political agendas, corporate profits, or social media trends. President Orlean's administration treats the approaching extinction event as a PR problem rather than a scientific fact, while tech billionaire Peter sees the comet as a business opportunity to mine rare minerals rather than a threat to eliminate. The media turns the apocalypse into entertainment, with morning show hosts literally asking viewers to choose whether they're for or against the comet, while social media transforms planetary destruction into trending hashtags and memes. The terror lies in the apocalypse's brutal realism. The comet becomes secondary to humanity's self-imposed blindness as people literally choose denial over survival, because acknowledging the truth would require admitting their worldview is wrong. The film's title becomes a rallying cry for those who refuse to acknowledge the comet streaking across the sky, making Don't Look Up a dark satire where the real extinction event isn't cosmic impact but the death of rational discourse, scientific literacy, and humanity's ability to face uncomfortable truths about their own mortality. Contagion presents the most scientifically accurate and terrifyingly plausible apocalypse through a viral pandemic that spreads faster than information, solutions, or hope, systematically dismantling global civilization through biological warfare that requires no weapons and only human contact. The MEV-1 virus begins with a simple transmission from bat to pig to human in a Hong Kong casino, but its rapid mutation and airborne spread turn everyday interactions into potential death sentences, making human connection itself the enemy of survival. The film's horror lies in its stark realism. There are no zombies or supernatural elements, just a microscopic pathogen that kills millions while exposing every weakness in humanity's interconnected global system. Society crumbles as conspiracy theories spread deadly misinformation faster than scientists can develop vaccines. Hospitals become morgues, and martial law replaces democratic governance. Dr. Ellis Shiever and the CDC become humanity's last hope, but even their efforts are hampered by political interference and the virus's ability to mutate faster than medical science can adapt. The pandemic doesn't just kill people. It destroys the social fabric that holds civilization together, turning neighbors into threats and families into infection risk. Contagion's apocalypse is ultimately about humanity's vulnerability to nature's smallest weapon, where a virus invisible to the naked eye proves more devastating than nuclear war by turning our greatest strengths, our social nature, into the mechanism of our own extinction. The Eternaut, based on a graphic novel from Argentina, presents a terrifying apocalypse through deadly radioactive snow that falls from the sky, instantly killing anyone who comes into contact with it and trapping survivors in their homes as prisoners of an alien invasion. Created by Argentine comic book writer Hector Herman Osterhel, the story follows Juan Salvo and his family as they witness their neighbors die horrific deaths simply by touching the beautiful, seemingly harmless snow snowflakes that blanket Buenos Aires. The terror emerges from the snow's deceptive beauty. It appears normal and even enchanting until people begin dying agonizing deaths from radiation poisoning, creating a world where the very air outside becomes lethal and homes become both shelters and tombs. The alien invaders remain largely invisible throughout the crisis, orchestrating humanity's extinction through remote biological warfare that requires no direct confrontation, just patience as humans slowly starve or go insane. Juan's desperate attempts to reach other survivors lead him through a nightmarish landscape of abandoned streets and dead bodies preserved by radioactive snow. The Eternaut's apocalypse becomes a meditation on isolation and psychological torture of watching civilization die slowly rather than a single catastrophic moment. The story's most haunting element is its portrayal of ordinary people trying to maintain humanity while trapped in an impossible situation where survival depends entirely on avoiding the natural world that once sustained them. Moonfall delivers one of cinema's most absurd yet spectacular apocalypses, where Earth's moon is revealed to be an artificial megastructure that begins falling apart towards the planet, threatening to destroy all life through gravitational chaos and ultimately direct impact. The film follows disgraced astronaut Brian Harper and conspiracy theorist Casey Houseman as they discover the moon is actually an ancient artificial construct built by humanity's predecessors but corrupted by a malevolent AI swarm. The moon's gravitational devastation begins destroying civilization long before any potential impact, tearing apart the planet's surface through massive earthquakes, tsunami waves that dwarf mountains, and atmospherical disturbances that make the surface uninhabitable. NASA Administrator Yosenda Fowler leads desperate evacuation efforts while the world's governments collapse under the weight of explaining how the moon is suddenly accelerating towards Earth. The revelation that the moon contains an artificial gravity generator and ancient human technology suggests that this apocalypse is actually humanity's second extinction, as the AI swarm has previously consumed other civilizations. Harper's desperate mission to reach the moon's core and restore its original programming becomes humanity's only hope for survival, but even success would only prevent immediate impact rather than repair the massive environmental damage already caused. Moonfall transforms the moon from humanity's romantic companion into an artificial doomsday weapon, suggesting that our closest celestial neighbor has always been a loaded gun pointed at Earth. The film presents an ancient cycle of cosmic genocide that spans multiple civilizations across galactic time. Sunshine presents a cosmic apocalypse where Earth's sun is dying, requiring humanity's last desperate gamble to reignite their dying star with a nuclear payload delivered by the spacecraft Icarus II. The film's apocalypse has already begun 50 years before the story starts, as decreased solar output triggers a new ice age that slowly freezes Earth into an uninhabitable wasteland. The psychological devastation proves as dangerous as the physical threat, with the crew's gradual descent into madness as they approach the sun, as the massive star's influence drives men like Dr. Sara Lee to stare directly into solar fire. The discovery of the lost Icarus I reveals that previous mission commander Captain Penbacker went insane from solar exposure and sabotaged humanity's first salvation attempt, becoming a religious fanatic who believes God ultimately wants humanity to die. Kappa, the mission's physicist, becomes the reluctant savior who must manually detonate the stellar bomb. But his journey into the sun's heart transforms him from scientist into cosmic participant in stellar resurrection. I honestly don't know what's worse, dealing with freezing temperatures on Earth or straight diving into a star. The film's apocalypse operates on multiple levels: the physical death on Earth through solar cooling, the psychological destruction of the crew, and the spiritual transformation of human beings into cosmic forces. Sunshine ultimately suggests that some apocalypses can only be prevented through transcendence, where humanity must literally become one with cosmic forces that threaten them. Salvation becomes indistinguishable from extinction, as Kappa disappears into solar fire to birth a new sun and save a species he will never see again. Geostorm presents a technologically induced apocalypse where humanity's solution to climate change becomes the instrument of global destruction, as the Dutch Boy's satellite network, designed to control Earth's weather systems, is weaponized to create catastrophic storms. The orbital weather control system begins malfunctioning and generating geostorm conditions, including massive hailstones in Tokyo, freezing temperatures in Rio de Janeiro, and lightning storms that incinerate entire city blocks. Jake Lawson, the system's creator, must return to space to investigate the satellite network's failures, discovering that Dutch Boy has been sabotaged by political conspirators who want to use weather control as the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. The apocalypse's plausibility within current technological developments make it particularly unsettling, as climate engineering research continues advancing while geopolitical tensions increase. The geostorm itself represents multiple simultaneous weather disasters cascading across the globe, creating a feedback loop where artificial weather control triggers natural responses that amplify destruction beyond human ability to contain. President Palma faces the impossible choice between shutting down humanity's climate protection system and allowing the weaponized weather network to continue destroying major population centers. Geostorm warns against the dangers of technological solutions to natural problems, showing how humanity's greatest threat may be the unintended consequences of the systems we create to combat climate change. Our salvation becomes our extinction through the corruption of good intentions into instruments of mass destruction.